Pet Catchers, a game many probably have heard about in one or another way. A game that once was popular and fell to the bottom after only about half a year, losing 99% of its players, going from 40,000 to just 400 players. But why did the game fail this much? That's what we will find out in this video. The game started off pretty good, reaching over 40,000 of players multiple times. The player count was pretty high, which gave hopes for the studio that this might be the game to lift the studio up again, since many new players were enjoying it, which also meant studio was growing. With updates, the player count was dropping, which usually is a pretty normal thing since new players try it out and then decide if they want to continue or not. But just 2 months after the release, the game was struggling to get 10,000 of players, which is 25% of the original player count. Moving forward, the player count only dropped. Following weeks, the player count dropped below 4,000 and then even below 2,000 for the first time. But then something happened that gave the game a new hope. Roblox have announced the game's event, and Pet Catchers was a part of it. That meant many thousands of players would play Pet Catchers to finish the event, and that could work as an advertisement for the game. Seeing the badges, hundreds of thousands of players played Pet Catchers, but did that actually give any effect? Player count sure did jump up when the event was there, but as you can see, it dropped back even more after the event was gone, which meant Pet Catchers didn't really receive any new players. Pet Catchers actually lost 1% of likes in just 10 days when the event was in the game, which is definitely not a good sign. But of course, there are reasons as to why players don't like the game and quit it. The game's name is Pet Catchers, and you expect pet catching to be the main thing. It sure is for the first 1 to 2 hours of your gameplay, but then you get something called mystery eggs. When unlocking new area, you can just hatch the epic pets right away, which kinda ruins the pet catching since now you don't need to try and find epic pets. The more you play, the more you will realize that hatching is more important than catching. The game basically turns into another egg hatching simulator. The only time you'll be catching pets is if a quest forces you to, or if something rare spawns. Another thing about the game are the bosses. They aren't really bad, but definitely needs improving. King Slime could receive an attack that could, for example, block a part of your screen, since the boss itself is kinda boring. Basically repeats the same attack all the time. Kraken is another boss I could mention. What if it could destroy parts of the bridge to make it harder for player to dodge attacks? The bosses doesn't feel like anything hard, it just gets more boring with more health. If bosses were actual bosses, that could make the game a little more fun. Some people could dislike the pet designs in the game or just feel like it's nothing special. Bubblegum Simulator had one of the best-looking pets in Roblox at the time, and that's one thing that made the game so popular. But time have changed, and the pet designs haven't changed much. In some cases have gotten a little worse, which isn't a good thing. If there are cool-looking pets, players might stay longer in the game to try and get those pets. I mentioned pet catching and hatching, as well as the boss fights, but there's one more thing you can do in this game that I want to mention: the quests. When the game released already back then, the community found them kinda boring since they were repetitive, and the leader developer, Isaac, decided to share some information with the community. From the team, he said they understand the quests are boring and repetitive, and want to change them in the future to make them more fun. One issue with that is the fact quests only got worse, and the one I showed earlier actually came out sometime in summer. The quests looks insane, and let's be honest, nobody is actually sitting and catching 20,000 of pets by hand. Even if you can AFK that, it would take a very long time, like 22 hours if you catch one pet every 5 seconds. But what about the studio itself? There are 4 developers working on Pet Catchers, at least from what it looks like, which is a decently sized team. But with that team, the game isn't really being updated anymore. There was the game's event, and then 4 weeks later they posted an update, and since then, it has been 4 weeks, and nothing happened. I'm 100% sure they don't want to work on the game anymore, and might just update it rarely with a bit of content just to have something happening in the studio. Seeing a message from Isaac, we can understand that the game went nowhere. That means there's a very high chance they are working on a new game right now, and that game might actually be PvP related. Since I started talking about the studio, there's more to talk about. Their mindset isn't really best. They do not like criticism. When you become a developer, you should expect the community to react in different ways. It can be both positive and negative. When the community reacts, one of the best things you can do is actually noting down what the players liked and disliked about the new update. That would create a list, and with the help of the list, you would be able to avoid making updates the players would dislike. The reason I mention this is because it seems like Petcatcher's developers don't want to do that. They do not want any criticism about the game at all, even if it could actually improve the game because they think they know the best. The first time I made a Petcatcher's video like this actually made one developer react to it, and they did really take out of context the video by making it look like I only had dumb arguments towards the game. The reason I know they watched the video is because they actually posted a link to it, like 1 hour after I posted it. But a video is a video. There's more in the official Rumble Studios Discord server. Someone sent a 60-word message, and this is the answer they got. Not really a good way to answer to potentially fans of your game. But that's not so bad. Recently, a few days ago, as of when this video is out, there was one thing that happened. Someone suggested to do a question and answer for something positive in the server. The answer they got, as you can see, wasn't any positive. When the person saw that answer, they were not happy with it, so they wrote all of this. Shortly, they describe how they hate the way developers react and interact with community and don't want to stay in the server. All of this might in some way explain why Petcatchers ended up the way it did. Many are saying that Bubblegum Simulator 2 could revive Rumble Studios, but I can tell why that's wrong. If the studio follows the same mindset and stuff as they did with Petcatchers, Bubblegum Simulator 2 would also get boring and people would quit pretty quickly. I think the only way for Rumble to not fumble their next games is changing the way they make the games. We've seen the issues of Petcatchers and what makes the game boring for players. The studio didn't expand on the pet catching mechanic, didn't try to make quests more fun, but instead just continued to make them boring and repetitive and multiple other things that makes the game feel worse for the players. I've been a fan of the studio since 2018, when I played Mining Simulator and Bubblegum Simulator. I want Rumble Studios to make games that would be good since I've played their games for years. But if they continue to develop and communicate with the community the same way they have been doing right now, I doubt the studio will have any big success again. And so the Petcatchers have failed after just 7 months of being public, going from tens of thousands of players to just hundreds of players, and the game has basically no chances of being revived again. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. I would appreciate it. You can watch one of these videos while waiting for a new one. They are good too. Join my Discord server. You can chat with me and other members. The link is in description, and I will see you soon.